welcome.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to a new and improved episode of Hello, I'm Listening.
Why is it improved?
Because I'm improved.
Did you improve yourself?
Yeah. I'm
How?
version free.
Version 3?
Mm-hmm.
In your 32 years of life, you only have 3 versions of yourself?
I started with 0.1.
So, well,
Sure?
that might be more sad that you've had to change so many times.
I'm evolving every day. So it's not sad, it's just the natural progress.
Natural?
Natural.
What are you drinking?
Iced tea.
Mm-hmm.
Pfirsich Maracuja.
Mm-hmm.
Gesundheit.
Does it bring you back to your days when all you would drink is peach iced tea?
Actually, it does. No, it doesn't, because it doesn't taste like that.
It's not
iced
like
tea.
sugar water.
Nope, it's not. It's actually very delicious and refreshing beverage.
Can I try it?
It's from Alnatura. No ad or paid advertisement. It's pretty refreshing.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's nice.
So
So,
let's go back a little bit.
okay.
So we watched Black Panther 2
Mm-hmm.
in cinema a couple
Yep.
of weeks ago when it came out. And as some of you might know, the main actor from the first one, Chadwick Boseman, died in 2019, I think.
Was it so long ago?
Yeah. Of cancer.
I think it was 2020.
And I think he died before the pandemic. I don't know. Where's my phone? I have no clue.
I don't have my phone either.
I brought it, but I can't find it right now. Oh, here. Doesn't matter. He died, and so they obviously had to figure out, okay, we want to do a second part,
Mm-hmm.
but how do we handle his death? Are we writing him out, or does he die in the movie, or is he going to be replaced, or even further, like, are they using like CG to bring him back for maybe a couple of scenes, which Hollywood has done in the past? And so I thought it would be interesting to talk about the implications or maybe the opinions on that subject, because there are plenty of examples, and I have some of them, where Hollywood chose to bring back actors or even like musicians
Or
and
chose
stuff.
to replace them completely without any, like the character was just suddenly somebody
Sure.
new.
Sure. So yeah, that was the idea. So maybe it's going to be an interesting topic. I don't know.
We'll see.
Let's try it. I just want to, or do you want to add something to that?
No, but I think we should talk just about what we thought about in terms of Black Panther and how we thought because I was a little nervous going into watching it because I didn't want them to not acknowledge it.
Yeah.
But I also didn't want to like see him die, like if they were to do some CG thing where he died.
Yeah.
And because I don't know, for some reason I felt his death super hard. I think a lot of people did, because he was just so genuine, and it was so sad that he died so young.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he had such a massive influence on a lot of people because of the first movie.
Yeah.
So it was I really wanted them to do him justice. And I actually think they did. I think they did a really good job.
I agree. First of all, they honored him by making the Marvel logo intro all about him.
That made me cry.
And he was present throughout the whole movie. And the movie was centered around grieving and around his death and honoring his death and legacy, which completely translate into real life.
Yeah. And I think you could feel it from all of the actors that it was so genuine. Like, there
was no acting.
It
that
was not
all real.
And exactly.
Yeah.
It was very heartfelt and you could tell that all of them really were affected by his presence in their life.
Yeah.
And I thought it just made it so that movie made me cry so many times.
Yeah.
Because you just felt that from everybody. So I think they did a good job.
And obviously they had to replace Black Panther, not his character, but the superhero.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was a good choice to also let him die in the movie without mentioning too many details.
Yeah, instead of like having, like, you know, he just isn't here anymore. Like he went away or he, you know, because I also don't like when
I actually like that. I like when they just write them off.
But I think it depends on the character.
Sure. I mean, Black Panther is centered around Black Panther, but they easily could have just in the first couple of minutes of the movie could have written him off, like saying he went to space somewhere or, you know, something like that. Or I'm
glad they didn't do that.
He went away because he didn't want to live the life as a fighter anymore, or whatever, you know.
That wouldn't have fit his character,
no,
so I'm glad that they went the direction that they did.
They could have done it. And I honestly like that as well, if it fits with the story. Because not every character could be honored like that. And also not every movie or filmmaker would be able to pull that off. I think
not every movie would hold up, you know, like if there are so many characters where if they did just in general, not in that universe, but in general, if they did that in other movies, I think there would be a lot of backlash.
Yeah,
but I agree. It felt still so true to the Black Panther universe. And I really, really liked it.
I agree.
They did a good job.
So since we're already with Marvel and Disney and stuff.
Are you talking about Superman?
No, I'm talking about Carrie Fisher.
Oh, that's on my list too.
Her death was also pretty sudden, and she died shortly before Rogue One came out. So technically, that didn't really count because they filmed that while she was still alive. But Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, she died 3 years before that. And they had some not used footage from the second, like from the 8th movie and Episode 8. And they also used some CG to bring her back. And honestly, I recently rewatched the whole new trilogy again, and you can say whatever you want to say about those movies, but I liked the scene where they brought her back for one more time to give her character the proper send-off. And it's a very heartfelt, sad, but good scene, I think.
Yeah.
And weirdly, with Star Wars, it kind of also works, since there's this, like, you know, the characters, the Jedi who die don't really die. They come back as Force ghosts.
Yep.
So it kind of works in that universe. And another example for Star Wars.
Wait, before you move on to another example, though, just staying with Carrie Fisher, I also want to mention that she was a character on Family Guy, and they also killed off her character on Family Guy.
Yeah.
But again, you know, it was one of those things where you know that Seth MacFarlane is such a massive fan of not just Star Wars, but Star Trek and all of that stuff. She was his boss.
Oh, yeah. Peter's boss.
And
I remember.
They also killed her off in that show, and you know that it was just like for comedy purposes, but at the same time, just like the utmost respect for that woman.
I mean, the same with the mayor, Mayor West.
Yeah.
Adam West.
Yeah.
Who died, and Family Guy also buried him basically, and named the high school, like the fictional Family Guy high school, after him, which is kind of nice. No, but Peter Cushing or Cushing from the original Star Wars movies. He played Tarkin, a very famous and beloved character in the Star Wars universe. And they brought him back for multiple projects in, I think, Rogue One and, yeah, some other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of worked. Some people were a little pissed because, yeah, I don't know, it didn't really work, or they thought it didn't work. But, yeah, I kind of like Tarkin. And again, in the Star Wars sense, it kind of works. But it's weird because they brought him back in 2016 for Rogue One, and he died in 1994.
Mm-hmm. I remember when they brought him back and people were freaking out.
That shows that we're pretty far to kind of bring back almost every person at this point, because with AI you can recreate their voice. But it's also freaky to know that that person hasn't been alive for over 20 years at that point. Yeah. But it's also kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
It is cool.
And I think if you do it in a way where maybe the family gets compensated, obviously, because, they still use the likeness of him, and it's done in a very honorable and proper way to
and the thing
honor
is,
his legacy.
You know that they brought him back for the fans. Like, that was like the people who really love this universe are going to flip their lid when they see this.
Yeah, that's true. One example is pretty crass. They brought back Louis Armstrong, James Cagney, and Humphrey Bogart for a Coca-Cola commercial.
Really?
Yeah, in 1991. Elton John was promoting Diet Coke, and they brought those three back for that.
And how did
promotion.
they do that?
It's I think, wait, does it say? I don't know. No, it doesn't say. I don't know. I've not seen the commercial. I'm going to watch it later. But yeah, they have been dead for a couple of years at that point. So yeah, it's kind of freaky. But I assume they used there, black and white footage. They used old footage of those and colorized it.
Okay.
And probably also, did some touch up and stuff to make it look more modern. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty freaky.
One that this is an example of a character being replaced, and I think in this case particularly, it was the only choice and the best choice, because this franchise does not work without this character, and that would be in Harry Potter, Dumbledore.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Richard Harris was the original Dumbledore, and he died, and then just before the third movie.
Yes.
And then Michael Gambon took over.
Yeah.
And as difficult as I'm sure it was to find a replacement, because he was so brilliant as Dumbledore.
He was amazing. Yeah.
I think that they also found a brilliant replacement. And
I agree.
I think the franchise would not have been able to continue without him. Like, they wouldn't be able to write him out.
No. He's like,
because
if you
even
know
if
the
they
books,
tried to change, sure, in the books, but if they tried to change it, because they wanted to, it wouldn't have worked. You couldn't have any other person take over.
Character in the school. He's like the character who teaches, who guides Harry in every movie. Yeah. And I have to say, it works pretty well, because in the third movie they did a lot of replacing, like the exterior. They did a lot of changes to the school, to the wardrobe of the kids. And if you look at the first two movies and then the third one, it kind of fits that there's a lot of change. And obviously you can't compare those two actors. Everybody brings something different to the table, but it works pretty well.
Yeah.
But it's a good example for an actor replacing another actor.
I have an even better one, but I'm saving it for the end because it's super interesting.
I have Superman, Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando. For
Brando,
Superman, I have George Reeves and Christopher Reeve.
Yeah. But
because that was kind of the original replacement. But
Marlon Brando played Superman's dad, Jor-El, in the Richard Donner movies. and he died in 2004. And Bryan Singer wanted to bring him back for the 2006 movie with Brandon Routh. Brandon Routh, yeah, something like that. And they used CG to recreate the actor, and it kind of works because, again, it's more like the memory of, like in the Fortress of Solitude. Yeah, it's basically just the memory that gets played.
Yeah.
And it kind of works. Even though I remember there was a lot of backlash back then, but I think also because the movie didn't do so well. I don't know.
Yeah, but with George Reeve and Christopher Reeve, I guess that there was even more backlash because now we're so used to, especially in those universes, Marvel, DC, those characters get replaced quite often, at least the main ones, like Batman, Superman. There's always somebody new playing them. And that's kind of the part of the appeal. Yeah. Because it's always a new take and it's interesting. Yeah. But I guess in the start, George Reeve is like the original Superman. Yeah. And in the show, The Adventures of Superman. And then he died in 1959, and the show got canceled. So they didn't even want to do it without him. And then they started the movies, the Superman movies, where Christopher Reeve took over.
70s or early 80s, right?
Yeah, something like that. And I would imagine that there was a lot of backlash about that because the Superman fans knew George Reeve as Superman. So it probably took some time to see a new Superman, like to accept a new
the
Superman.
First one was pretty well received and people loved.
But I don't know how much time there was between. Maybe there was enough time between.
There was enough time, yeah. It was over 20 years, I think, or something like that. Yeah.
And then Christopher Reeve got into a car accident. I think a car accident and was paralyzed. Horse. He was paralyzed and in 1995 and obviously couldn't continue, and he died in 2005.
But I don't think they brought him back at some point.
I don't think they brought him back either. I'm pretty sure that...
I remember one of his last roles was Smallville. He had like this really cool cameo in Smallville, and shortly after he died. And Brandon Routh was in 2006, and then in 2011 or 2012, Man of Steel came out. Yeah. Harold Ramis from Ghostbusters. He was the fourth Ghostbuster, and he was the founder. And 2 movies came out where he starred in, and the third movie was technically in development for years, but he died in 2014. And there was a Ghostbusters spin-off kind of with the 3 or 4 women, which bombed. I saw it. It's okay. It's not great, but it's okay.
Why? Because it's women?
No, because the script wasn't just
too
that well
woke
written. No. Nah, it just the whole idea of
I never watched it.
Copying. So. I think it could have been really great. The actors were great. Like they had some really funny scenes, and overall they tried to copy too many things and they didn't do much new original stuff. But what I wanted to say, in Ghostbusters Aftermath, which came out 2021, I think last year in summer, they brought Harold Ramis back as a ghost, and we watched it. Cool. We watched it with your mom. I don't remember. Yeah, we watched it with your mom in January when we visited.
I don't remember.
And that scene was very heartfelt, and I remember like it basically was about his daughter and the son, and they were living in his old house where he apparently died at some point.
I do remember
and
that.
At the end, Bill Murray and the other 2 came back, and all of a sudden the ghost appeared, and that was a very sweet and well done scene where he didn't talk anything. He was just there, and at some point he was just smiling and I think hugging her or something, or waving her. And he never, Ghostbusters 2 wasn't that great, and he never got like the proper send off, and his character never really did.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it felt always like there is something missing, and I think they did a really good job with
Mm-hmm.
bringing him back for that in a very just a cameo, brief cameo, but yeah, that was a nice thing.
Another example of a show I think doing a good job with that is they wrote this character out, so the character died then in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like they did such a good job of like keeping him alive still,
Mm-hmm.
and that is in Gilmore Girls
Yeah.
when Edward Herman died. He's
Yep.
Richard, I think is his
Yep.
name, right?
Yep.
The grandpa. And he died after the series was done, but then they did the Gilmore Girls Year in a Life.
Yeah.
However many years later, 20, something like that.
The
Wasn't it like
series
20 years
ended in
later?
2007, I believe.
Yeah, and
or
it started in
2008.
2017.
And then yeah, right.
Yep.
So 10 years later.
Mhm.
Yeah, or almost. Yeah.
And so the actor died, and they wrote it so beautifully, like simple. It was very simple. I think in the show he just died of a heart attack or something. But because it worked with his character had heart troubles in the series at
Yeah,
one point, he had
yeah.
a heart attack. But they like kept him alive throughout every one of those 4 episodes, those 4 seasons. Like there was always some reference to him, and there was always
Yeah.
something kind of surrounding him and Emily's grief of
They
him dying. They did
showed
such a good job.
They did a flashback of the funeral, and they showed like some very. I remember one scene where Lorelai, I think, or Rory is standing in the dining area, and then they played like this.
Like voiceover of
No. They did a flashback scene from the original series.
yeah.
And it was a very sweet moment where
Yeah.
they honored his character and also his legacy as an actor. And
And a lot of Emily's role in that part of the
Was
that
about
series
grieving.
was about grief and just how she
moving on
with
Yeah,
her
yeah,
life.
yeah.
It was really beautifully done.
And I think that's a good example for, especially in a series where, you know, you get to know the character and you get to know how they work together and live together. And since there was this time jump, since they stopped filming and they came back, I think they did a very good job in honoring his character and him as an actor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I say I don't like it when like an actor dies, or even if an actor decides they don't want to be part of something anymore.
Yeah.
And they lazily write it off, you know, where it's like, oh, they don't live here anymore, or they moved away, or they did, you know, they have a new job, you know, whatever it is. I never liked that, because there needs to be something more concrete, especially I think if an actor dies, there needs to be, if they've invested so much of their career into something, there needs to be more than, like, they deserve more than that.
Yeah. I mean, one of the, I think, most famous example in terms of pop culture, in terms of, I don't know, reach, I guess, was Paul Walker from the Fast and Furious series, who died of an car accident. And he was filming, I don't know, was it the Fast and Furious 7? Yeah. And they
There's way
finished
too many of those movies.
yeah, they finished half of the movie, and he died, and they brought his brother in to finish some of the scenes with him and replace his face. And at the end, they gave him this very heartfelt send off, and you know, he doesn't die. He just drives off into the sunset and just tells Dom, or Vin Diesel's character, that he's done with it. He wants to live a normal life, and it's a very sweet scene. Obviously, it's very, you know, overdone with the music, and it's very forced, dramatic, but it works. It works for the series, and I believe it was not it could have been done better, but the fact that his brother came in and finished the movie for Paul Walker, and they still delivered a you know, you can say about Fast and Furious whatever you want, but still delivered a decent action movie, was very sweet. And even though I believe personally that should have been the end of the series, since I'm not a huge fan of the Fast and Furious movies, but that would have been a perfect.
You watch all of them when they come out.
Yeah, but
I wouldn't say you're a huge fan, but I would say you're a fan.
The thing is, I actually like the 7th movie because there are some really good scenes, and yeah, but overall they're just dumb action movies. But I believe they should have ended the whole series with that, because Paul Walker was a very he was one of the main characters besides Vin Diesel, and yeah, I mean, the series is not getting better. Let's be honest, it's getting worse. So they should have ended it with a bang and also honored the legacy. And I feel like they're not doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Personal opinion. I want to talk about 2 more things and then we get to the last one.
Okay.
The one was, we just quickly talked about it, Prince, or his likeness as a hologram for a concert that Justin Timberlake did in his hometown of...
Isn't he from Tennessee?
Minnesota, right?
Oh, in Prince's hometown.
Yeah.
Yeah, Minnesota.
Yeah. And they used like this hologram technology, basically, which projected him on the stage while performing, while Justin Timberlake was performing. And they did the same with Michael Jackson.
At some music award show.
Wasn't it the Super Bowl? I believe it was the Super Bowl.
I think it was a music award show.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it was rumored that there was gonna be a hologram of Prince at the Super Bowl, but I don't think that ever happened.
See,
and Michael Jackson was at a music award.
I have very mixed feeling about this thing.
I don't like it.
I get the sentiment and I get what they want to do with it. And also, I mean, with Minnesota and Justin Timberlake playing there and then just using it for one song is okay.
But in terms of Prince, I don't think that Prince would have liked that.
Exactly. I believe that almost no actor, actress, singer, or... I mean, actors, maybe different story, but singer, performer want to be used as that, like a puppet, basically. Yeah. And it's also kind of weird.
Especially because they, it's hard to differentiate between, make the difference between movie and music in this, what I'm about to say. But it just feels different to me. It feels like, a musician, when they go on tour, it's something that only a select group of people go to see, compared to it's streaming, it's, everybody has access to it. When they're touring, that's, even if it's a massive stadium, it's still a very intimate experience.
Yeah.
And to have somebody else use your likeness for their music, it feels wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even though technically a cameo or like some performer who comes in for one song because they did it on the album featured, a featured artist.
Sure.
It's technically the same.
But it's not because
they're
consenting to it. They're putting their stamp on it, And sure, actors who die can't consent to that either. But they also have contracts that, the franchise is allowed to use their likeness. I don't know how deep those contracts go.
I mean, I assume that the family, if not other stated, the family still owns the right, because that's most of the time the case. And either they sell it, which most families do because it's good money, or they license it and they can license the likeness.
There's bunch of, I want to say thousands of songs that Prince never released that his family has. How fucking cool would it be if there was a new Prince album at some point?
See, I get it, but at the same time,
But that kind of goes along the same lines. Who knows if Prince would want that?
Right. And most artists do a bunch of shit and then just release the good stuff, or they believe that's good and the rest goes down the vault and maybe at some point on a B-side or something. So I don't know. I don't know. Let's go to the last one.
Okay. This one I find super fascinating. So I didn't know this about this movie, and now I kind of want to watch this movie tonight.
Parnassus.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Heath Ledger, who is like my heart and soul, I adore that human being, very tragically died in 2009, 2010. 2009. 2009.
2009, yeah. Shortly after Dark Knight.
Yeah. Premiered.
I think it wasn't.
I think he was already dead before the premiere of the movie.
Yeah. Exactly. The premiere was after his death, and he got an Oscar, obviously, for the role. And he was in the middle of filming the Curiosity of...
The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Yeah.
And so when I watched The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus the first time, his character, Tony, is played by 4 different people.
3. Or
No,
with him,
4.
4.
With him.
Yeah.
With him.
Yeah.
And he like undergoes transformations, and that's why he's like different people throughout the movie. I thought that the movie was written like that. I thought that was the idea behind the movie. But what actually happened is he was supposed to be the only person playing Tony.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you have to add something here. Without giving away spoilers, he's going through a portal.
yeah.
And every time he goes through the portal, he transforms into a different actor.
Yeah.
Or he looks different. He's the
looks
same
different.
character, but he
It's
looks
very
different.
Doctor Who-y.
Yeah.
So I thought that was how it was written, but it turns out it was not written that way. He was supposed to always look the same as he traveled.
Yeah.
And when he died, they were in the middle of filming and they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So they reinvented the whole movie.
Yeah.
And 3 of his friends stepped in.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that they were all like buddies. So these people stepped in willingly because they wanted to like honor his
Help and
legacy. And those 3 people being Johnny Depp, Colin Farrell, and Jude Law. And then every time he goes through a portal, he's one of them.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
The reason why the whole thing worked out like that was because Terry Gilliam, the director, finished most of the scenes where he's outside of the portal.
Yeah.
So the main portion that wasn't filmed yet was inside the portal.
Yeah.
So that was to the advantage. So they didn't have to fake or CG or anything outside of the portal. They just rewrote and recut some things.
But there were a couple of things. His stunt double looked incredibly like him. They said it looked almost exactly like him, and in some shots you can't even tell.
Yeah.
And so they said they lucked out because they got most of the close-ups already with Heath.
Exactly.
And there are some scenes where it's his stunt double that you're seeing because they looked so much alike.
Exactly. So, yeah, kind of worked out well. And I mean, the thing is, I don't think it's like a fantastic movie. I love it. I saw it in the cinemas when it came out, but it's a great example of how to deal with a tragic and sudden death. And obviously they were able to salvage the movie because, I mean, there are plenty of examples of actors dying. For example, The Crow, you know, and the movie is never being made, or, you know, or they completely change it. They have to rewrite it, recast it, whatever. Yeah. I don't know. I thought of a different movie where the actor died in the middle of the filming and then replaced them, but I can't think of any more examples right now. Yeah. Overall, I don't know. I think it's an interesting topic. I think I bet even there are tons of examples where they didn't do a good job or a well enough job to honor the legacy, and you can see, okay, they just wanted to finish the movie for not losing a bunch of money or profiting off the headlines, maybe that the actor died or whatever.
Or they just replace the person, like in TV series that happened a lot. They would just replace,
Sure.
not just when people died, but when people didn't want to be a part of it, they would just replace it and never talk about it.
I mean, I don't think that happens that much anymore, but yeah.
In the
sure,
90s, it happened a lot.
It happened, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
with Fresh Prince, when Aunt Viv
But she
was
didn't die.
suddenly different. And I know I said it's not always when they die,
Mm-hmm.
but she was replaced. But they actually did a good job because they acknowledged the elephant in the room,
yeah,
and it was they made little jokes about how she looks different, or it was really funny. But not every show did that. I mean, look at Baywatch with Hobie. Remember Hobie season 1 was somebody different. It's a different kid actor.
But that happens a lot where they grow up or where they have to
Sure.
use it. An older person, and with kid actors especially because
but they also did it with Neely.
Yeah, but technically she was she was in one episode, and
The last episode of the season.
I don't think they didn't really know what to do with her character. And then they brought her back and they had to recast her because maybe the actress didn't want to do it, or...
But it's weird that they even wrote her in at all. They should have just left.
Yeah.
I mean, I know why they did, because Matt wanted to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But so they needed a reason for him
We
to leave,
still
and that was a
should
good
do
reason.
a podcast on Baywatch.
I think so too. Baywatch is awesome.
Some people stand in the darkness, afraid to step into the light.
Some people need to help somebody. Okay.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
Thanks to our Patreon, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, buddy. I hope it's not too cold in Indiana right now, but I believe it is.
Pawnee, Indiana?
No, not Pawnee.
He doesn't live in Pawnee?
That's a fictional place.
It's not fictional. It's real.
And if
Leslie
you want to
Knope is
support
there.
us, if you want to support us, besides following, subscribing, and rating the podcast, you can become a patron yourself. The link is in the description. And we have 2 tiers, and just look at, and we will be very grateful and thankful if you do.
Indeed.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Watch out for deer.